Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Ms. Shagufta Ibrahim is here with your social studies topic. Today we will take a review of what we have done in previous classes about agriculture and livestock. The whole chapter's review. Agriculture relates to farming and raising animals to be obtain food. What is agriculture means कि not only growing the crops but also raising of animals on the farmlands. So history of agriculture was settlement civilizations started because of agriculture. Before that, when the agriculture methods of agriculture were not used by the early age people, they were just uh, involved in nomadic. They were called the nomadic people. They move place to place in search of food and water and shelter. But since they started growing the crops, the settlements and civilizations started began to be established in different regions. Agriculture provides us what? Now we will see what we can get from agriculture. Fiber, fiber for domestic consumptions. Look at here, we can get this, all these fibers, which is shown in the picture from the cotton crop. It is cotton is taken to the industries as a raw material where this fiber is made, through which we industries manufacture the clothes. Feed grains we also gain from agriculture. We also get it from agricultural crops. Enhance the living environment. It also refreshes the living environment for the human beings as well as for the birds and animals. Horticultural plants. Actually, horticulture is a Latin word. Hortus means garden and cultura means cultivation or garden. It is also horticultural plants are also known as garden crops. Actually, the horticulture is a branch of plant agriculture, including vegetable, fruits, nuts, which are directly used by man for food, the flowers, and other ornamental plants for visual enjoyment. So, all these are the cultivation which are done in a garden, like fruits and nuts and vegetable for food and medical purpose or ornamental or decorative purpose. These are known as horticultural plants or the garden crops. Look at this picture. Beautiful flowers are grown in this horticultural cultivation. Food we get from horticulture and different things are made from these crops. Factors we have also done. Okay, what are the factors that affect the agriculture? So in which we have done the, look at here, we have also done a pest and pesticides. What are the pest and pesticides? Which are the organisms and adequate water supply. This is we will explain through the pictures. Flat and fertile land soil is necessary. Suitable climate is necessary for the agriculture. Soil management, water logging, and salinity. Now we will discuss this with the help of pictures. Flat and fertile land is also a factor, necessary factor for agriculture. Growing crops on the flat land is easier than on a slope. Look at this picture. If the land is a slope like this, so what will happen? The water will not be absorbed by the soil, it will run down, and the required amount of water will not be get by the crops or the plants. So flat land is necessary for growing the crops. All the water will be running down from the uh, sloping land. So flat land and fertile soil is necessary. And the fertile means the soil must have the required amount of nutrients which are necessary for different crops. Then next we have to discuss about adequate water supply is also necessary for growing crops. Too much or too little water are both dangerous for crops. For example, look at this picture. This is the picture of rice crop. Rice crop requires about 3 inches staying water, so uh, it needs a large amount of water. But if we talk about other crops such as rice requires 3 inches of standing water, whereas beans and many other similar crops do not require the standing water. Look at this picture. So rice crops needs adequate, so sufficient water supply or adequate water supply is necessary for different crops. Pest and pesticides. Look at this picture. These are the organisms which destroy the crops. So these are the factors that also affect the crops. Pests are living organisms cause the damage to agriculture. So they include weeds, parasitic organisms. Examples are weevils, moths, and some species of worm, fungus also. So what we have to do to control these pests, we have to spray. Make farmers make the spray of pesticides. Pesticides are the medicinal treatment through which are used. These are the medicine to kill the pesticides. So this is the man who is spraying over the crops to control the pest. Soil management is another factor which affects the agriculture. Soil is the top layer of the earth in which plants can grow. So some crops use up more nutrients than others. One kind of nutrients is required in a large quantity. So before planting any new crop, farmers must test the condition of the soil and then decide what nutrients are required there. So different, for example, what are the nutrients? Nutrients are carbon, phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, sulfur, calcium, magnesium, silicon, sodium, and zinc. These are the nutrients uh, which must be contained by the soil for growing the crops. If soil doesn't have these nutrients, sufficient amount of these nutrients, so farmers add the artificial fertilizers or the uh, uh, animal fertilizer in the soil to get the required amount of the nutrients. So before growing the crops, they manage the soil and make it with the required amount of nutrients. Suitable climate is also necessary for growing the crops uh, because determines the region, time, and type of crop that can be grown in a place. For example, wheat requires a warm, dry climate, and so if wheats are grown in the regions where the climate is dry and hot, if we take the wheat to grow in the northern pole, so what will happen? The north pole have the cold climate throughout the year, so wheat crop cannot be grown in north poles. So hot and dry climate is required for the wheat crops. So suitable climate also affects the agriculture. Pakistan's most common natural disasters also, that is flood, which also affects the crops. We have also done this in the previous sessions. Okay, look at here, the flooding have destroyed the crops and the damages the infrastructure also. And natural disaster affects the agriculture, and this is flood is the common natural disaster which regularly comes every year in Punjab and Sindh and destroys the crops and infrastructure also there. Salinity is another factor. When the water is evaporated, it leaves behind the traces of salt like this. White color shows the salt is remaining here and all the water is evaporated. So this is known as the salinity, which is not suitable for the crops, and no crop can be grown on this soil. Look at this dry and salinity soil. Waterlogging is another factor which affects the agriculture badly, because if there is standing water on the root in the roots of the plants, the supply of oxygen is stopped. So this is known as the waterlogging. So this is also affects the agriculture. Ways to managing water supply, natural waste. How we can take the water to the farm fields. Rainwater is also used on the farms for growing the crops. Rivers, we can take the river water through the canals to the farms. Look at here, this is the river and different canals are dug to take the water to the farms. Then the wells are also dug to supply the water to the crops on the farmland. Supply of water to the fields from reservoirs also is one of the common method in Pakistan. Look at here, sprinkles are used. Water is sprinkled. These are the sprinkles through which the water is supplied to the crops. And tube well is also used in the farms in Punjab and Sindh, and canals are dug to take the river water reservoirs to the farmlands. So this was the review of the previous sessions, to keep all the things in your mind. So also you have to read these topics in your book also. Each and every topic is given in your book. So read the book thoroughly. It's on page 76, agriculture and livestock. Uh, read all the topics in your book and study the pictures carefully for understanding more. So that's all for today's class. We will meet in next class inshallah. Till then, Allah Hafiz.